everyone, and welcome back into the kitchen. And with me I have the beautiful Agatha. Now, Agatha, you live on acreage and you brought in some beautiful fresh eggs today. And I've just shown you some poaching happiness. Now, with the rest of the eggs, what we're going to do is dessert, a naughty, decadent dessert. Now, I don't know about you, but one of my favorite desserts is tiramisu.
It is my absolute favorite. I don't drink coffee, but I love tiramisu.
Now, often when we go out to a restaurant and I order a tiramisu, my only little bit of disappointment that happens, because generally I love tiramisu, is when those little biscuits are a little bit watery. Have you ever had that before, where you still eat it all because you're that dedicated to your sugar intake, but there's that little bit of disappointment. So I always fix that. And what we're going to do is I'm going to show you how to do my naughty tiramisu today. Naughty and nice. Okay, so we're going to pimp it up a bit and come out with maximum flavor. And also, I like to put as many kilojoules into my tiramisu as possible. So I'll show you the basic tiramisu recipe in a minute, but just to pimp it up. And with those little lovely lady finger biscuits, generally you would just dip them in some coffee. We're going to dip them in some coffee and a little bit of a liqueur. We are also going to pimp it up with some melted chocolate. So this is going to be, when we get into there's going to be a lot of happiness that comes with it. So I've got here one of those really big chocolate blocks. I think that's about a 200 grammer. I've got my sexy little sharp knife, and what I do is just sort of edge that into my body there. And what I'm doing is just pulling some chocolate curls. Now I know that looks very chefy and you're intimidated, but it's actually very easy to do. Okay, so just that sharp knife is, and this is for the decoration later, is I'm going to pull some of those off, and pulling that knife and just holding it with your body, and it will crack, but that's fine, we're going to break it up anyway. All right, so chocolate curls, and you can do this on a white block or anything, and if you felt that you needed to test the quality, well, you could just steal one as you go, which is what I would do if you guys weren't watching. So we've got some lovely chocolate curls there. Do you want to have a go?
Oh, God, okay.
So just pop your body into it and curl away. Just don't make them better than mine. Beautiful. Can you see how easy it is once you know how? It's all the little tricks. That's very good.
Here we go.
Well, how do you feel about that? Do you feel more chefy now?
Yeah.
I'm very impressed. Excellent. So that's awesome. So now what we're going to do is those are going to be for our decoration, and you can see those little chocolate curls. If your hands are very hot, don't touch, and you can do that prep in advance. So if you're doing this for the weekend, and the nice thing about the mascarpone, the tiramisu, is that they can be made 3 to 5 days in advance. So if you are one of those chefs that when your guests arrive and you're doing something different for a dinner party, it stresses you out, this is going to take a lot of the stress out of it, because you can make this in advance and then taste one every day leading up to your event. Make sure they're okay. So I'm breaking that. If you want to break that chocolate up in there, we're going to do a little bit of the chocolate. I've got just some standard cream here, okay? And then I've also got that shot. I've done a double shot of espresso. And what we're going to do is, this is going to be the mixture that we're going to dip our little ladyfinger biscuits into. So we've pimped it up. We've pimped up the flavor and a bit of personality. But in order to do that, and if that coffee had just been pushed, extracted, it might be hot enough to actually melt that chocolate. Let me pop that in the microwave just for 30 seconds and get some heat into it. Of course, if you don't have a microwave, you could put it in a pot and just heat it up. I'll be right back. Okay, so that was literally in the microwave. If you can feel, it's just the nice residual heat. So if you just, oh, we'll need actually a spoon. If you stir that through for us. Now, so it's not swear word hot, but it's just going to be enough to hopefully melt that chocolate. Yes. Now, remember I said we were doing naughty but nice. Now, of course, you can leave this out if you don't want, but Kahlua, any of those beautiful liqueurs are going to actually complement this dish. So I'm going to sneak in a little bit of amarula, which is an African drink, but of course you can use your Baileys or even this amaretto style, you know, the lovely sort of almond flavor. I'm going to put in oops.
That was more than I expected.
That dinner party just got more fun. I want the flavor in there. And then what we're going to do is dunk these beautiful lady biscuit fingers into there and let them soak while we make our actual tiramisu filling. Yeah, that should be hot enough. Now, of course, if we leave them in there for too long, our little biscuits, they're going to break apart.
Yeah.
I would still get in there and eat them. But we want them to almost be, you know, soaked, but retaining their shape, yes. So those can go in there. Now, of course, you can soak and go. So let's get that filling done. So what I've got is, I've got my KitchenAid here, and what I've got is my new sexy bowl, which I saw you checking out. What do you think?
So pretty.
I know, I've got about 4 of them, and my husband's apparently a little bit jealous. So what we're going to do is, we actually got your beautiful fresh eggs here. I need to have a second bowl, and I'm lucky enough to have a tool, because we're going to separate the eggs.
Okay.
So we're going to put the whites in this one, and I'm sure you all know how to separate eggs. And the lovely yolks are going to go in that one, and we're going to do 4 eggs here. So I'll just speed it up. And the reason we're separating them is because we're going to beat these egg whites and have that lovely, lovely delicate texture, fluffy. Yeah, so there are some lazier recipes where you wouldn't do this, but only the best for you.
Thank you.
I want you to enjoy your tiramisu.
Can't wait.
There we go. And these eggs are amazing and fresh. Tell your hens, well done. Okay. I've got my 4 egg yolks in there. Now this is going to get a bit noisy. What I'm going to do is beat, I've got 100 grams of normal sugar. You can use caster sugar if that's what you have. And then I put vanilla into everything. Not traditional, but I'm going to put a nice squeeze of vanilla bean paste into there. And what we're going to do is beat this for about a minute or 2 until it becomes nice and light and fluffy. And then we'll do the egg whites as well. Of course, you've got to have mascarpone cheese. So mascarpone, you can get it at your supermarket. If you can't find it, you can use a creme fraiche or a cream cheese, but then it's not going to be traditional.
Okay.
But sometimes we just have to do what we have to do. Let's beat these eggs. So while that's beating, we'll soak a few of these, because they do take a while, especially with the chocolate. It's going to take a little bit longer to soak, rather than just the plain coffee. And the biggest mistake you can make is if you only soaked the outside and you've got dry cookie or biscuit in the middle. People will talk, and we don't want them judging us too harshly. So if you just spoon that over, oh, that's looking perfect. You want to have a look? Nice and light and fluffy.
Oh, wow.
That's perfect.
Even the color change.
Yes. All right, so just make sure you're scraping down the sides. Now, we need this whisk for the egg whites. So let me beat the egg whites up, and then I'll show you how to put this together. Okay, so that was very quick. So I had 2 bowls. So I did the eggs and the sugar in this bowl, and I added that naughty vanilla. And then I had another bowl, because I've got 2. And then I've done the egg whites in there. So they are lovely at stiff peak. Okay, now what we're going to do is add our mascarpone. So that just goes straight in there, and it can be quite solid, so it does need to come to a nice smooth batter when before we fold our egg whites into that. Now, of course, you could make a smaller batch if it was just for 2 of you, but like I said, this is perfect in the fridge for 3 to 5 days, and then the stress just went out of your dinner party, because everything's made in advance. Now, obviously, the mascarpone cheese is very important here, because that's where we get that glorious flavor from. So that's the authentic way to do it. So let's just beat that till it's smooth. Okay, so I think that looks really good. So just the color from your eggs is just amazing. So we've got that's the base of our tiramisu. And if you can see, it just looks amazing, lovely and thick. All right. Now, obviously, we're gonna try this as it comes out, so it's not going to be cold. But obviously, when you chill it, all those flavors and layers develop, and it eats more expensive. Okay. But today we're going to slum it. We're just going to go straight in. So here's our lovely mascarpone, the eggs, and the sugar, and then let's fold in those whites. Now, I always say when you're folding in your egg whites, if you're in a bad mood, you need to get over it.
Okay.
Because your eggs want gentle folds. Okay. So if you bash the side of the bowl, you're going to lose the aeration that you've just spent all that time getting in there. So I always say, if you're in a bad mood, by all means, get over it, because now we need happy thoughts. Okay. All right. So it's like making a chocolate mousse, and we're just going to happily just fold those two over there. All right, and nice and light and fluffy. Now, of course, you could also bake this. So this is a very similar recipe to a cheesecake.
Yeah, right.
So you could also bake that. But if you, how's your folding? Do you want to fold that over and under? Now, I know those biscuits are starting to look a bit dodgy because we've literally put chocolate, coffee over biscuits, and now they're getting a little bit dodgy looking and soft. But that's exactly what we need. So dodgy looking is exactly what we need here. Also, when it comes to tiramisu, and like you said to me earlier, this recipe is far too easy for someone of your skill levels, okay? But we can make it look expensive, okay? So even if you have the same guests again and again, the trick to do is to choose a different container that you serve it in. So what you could do is Exhibit A, and this is what I do for when I'm lazy, is you could do it in a big glass jar like that, and we can build the layers. So that looks really good, especially if you're going to a dinner party and you can arrive through the door like that, they will let you in, all right? But say you wanted more, for the family, and I like it when I don't have to share dessert, all right, because I want my own little personal portion. So then you could use something like these cute little jars. Now those jars will seal, okay, so you can make it in advance, seal it and put it away, and imagine whipping one of those out to the dinner table. It's all done. You don't have to do any more work, and that's what I love to do. That should be perfect. That's amazing. Look at that lovely light and fluffy. Imagine we should just get spoons and eat that straight away.
I can just become your assistant chef. That's fine.
That would be perfect. That would be perfect. Now, what I've also done is say you were going to do it and you didn't have any of those jars. Well, I always say go into your cupboard and see what you do have. So you might have martini glasses. You might even have a fishbowl. A fishbowl of tiramisu.
Is that a one serve?
That would be my own personal serve, yes. Or we could do something like this.
Oh, nice.
All right, so you could literally do whatever you wanted. Now, of course, if you were going to be more accurate when you dish up, you might want to get your little piping bag out. Now, I don't know if you have a piping bag, but often when you're dishing up, it can mess on the side of the bowl.
Yeah.
But of course, we're just going to do that. But if you do have a piping bag, you can be more accurate in there. But when dishing up, this is my little secret. And you can see I'm going in here for a saucer or a little plate. So when I'm dishing up and I'm worried about this spilling, I will call this my transporter plate, because anything that I'm transporting can drop onto the plate rather than onto the side of the bowl. So we're going to transplant some of this lovely filling, and it's so lovely and fluffy. I know. Now we're going to build our layers. So of course, if we're doing this in the big one, we would do it very similar to this. So then we are going to take our dodgy looking but well soaked biscuits, all right, and we are going to put them in here. Now, of course, if you've got a more regular shaped dish, you can line them up. Okay, these are perfectly soaked. And of course, the flavor. So we've got that naughty chocolate, we've got that lovely coffee, and we've got our booze. And like I said, you don't have to put that in, but I'll have to get that later. But this is going to be delicious. Now, I almost want to see that little layer through, so I'm just swishing them to the sides, all right? And then we will top it up with this. So now we cover our sins, all right? We want to give them something to dig towards. It's like a little treasure hunt. They can find that lovely chocolate. And of course, you could put more biscuits in there, but this is going to be glorious. And that, I think, is a respectable size portion for someone like me who loves their dessert. Might be a bit too much for other guests, but you can always have their leftovers as well. All right, so popping it into there. Now, of course, you could do a chocolate sauce, and cap it. But the traditional thing to do is actually get some beautiful cocoa powder. Okay. So we're going to get some cocoa powder and we're going to put that over there. It's a lovely bitter taste. Yeah. And it actually does cut through the richness of the dish. Now also cocoa powder, the cocoa powder you use, try use the best one that you can afford. And I go for those lovely, sexy, dark ones. So now to finish that off, I've got a little strainer. I'm actually using my tea strainer here. And because you need to sieve this as well, because like you can see, mine's a bit lumpy here, and it'll just go like that. There's nothing wrong with it. Yeah. So using this will give us that lovely, elegant dusting. And I like to go quite rich. And then, of course, we have our chocolate curls that we made in advance. I'm going to pop those on there. And I like to, when I say I'm going to make you some delicious dessert, I like to deliver on my promises. And of course, to pimp it up just a bit further, I've got these lovely little edible butterflies. It's like a little rice paper butterfly, and I sell that as part of my range. I also put it on my gin. And that is our quickie. Of course, we can make the rest up, and I'll do all of these, and I'll show you in a minute. But that is a very lovely, naughty tiramisu. Death by chocolate.
It looks
and a bit boozy.
and very expensive.
It does look very expensive. And now you get to try.
Oh my gosh.
Yay! Enjoy!
Thank you.
Let me get you a little spoon.
Yum. Oh my gosh, that is
Is it like heaven? Now, of course, this would sit in the fridge, but there's nothing wrong. Don't even, we can just get right in there. So I hope you make those again for your dinner party. Choose a bowl or whatever you have that is going to be, you know, perfect for the occasion, and you'll live happily ever after in the kitchen.
Incredible, thank you.
Enjoy!